Thank you for everybody coming tonight. This is a presentation put on by Commissioner Tammy Nguyen, the first district of the Board of Review. We're going to go through how to file a property tax appeal tonight. It's a short PowerPoint presentation, about 25 minutes, and then we'll open up the Q&A. Continue to submit your questions via the chat at the bottom of the screen. And we have some staff here that will answer your questions. And at the end, if you want to stick around, because someone else's question may actually help you with your question. So it's a good time to pick some things up that maybe you didn't think about. And so stick around for that at the end. So I want to introduce Commissioner Tammy Nguyen right now, and she'll say a few words and then we'll get right into the presentation. Commissioner Nguyen.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm sorry. My car, you don't want to hear all my issues. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So, hello, Lake and Worth Township. I know that that's who we have tonight is Lake and Worth Township, and we are so excited to be here. And I just want to say thank you for everybody who's coming in. I know that we had a glitch, but there's going to be more people coming in. So also this will be recorded, like Todd said. I just want to acknowledge and thank my staff for promoting and organizing this event. Jake, Leland, and Ralph Bargansky, and Todd Thielman, my chief of staff, and then all my analysts who are on tonight. Some of them are here. They're going to be here to help you answer questions. So we all truly care about the tax burden of your property tax bill. We know how hard it is to pay your bills, especially now with all this inflation. We know how hard it is to pay your mortgage, pay your bills, and then pay your property tax bill. So that's why we're here, because we truly care and we want to help you. Like Todd said, I am the first district commissioner for the Board of Review. And just a little bit about me, I've been practicing law for over 20 years. And I wanted to do this, to run for this office, because I wanted to give back. And, you know, it's not easy dealing with Cook County politics, as you all know, but I'm not here for anyone except you. I'm not here for the politicians. I'm here for the taxpayers and the people like me and you. I was born and raised in Evergreen Park. So all you Evergreen Parkers out there, hello, thank you for coming. And I still live in the south suburbs. And, you know, this place is near and dear to my heart. So I truly care about all of you. I'm sure there's some of you out there who I know that are on right now. So hello. But I'm not a career, and I help bright people like me and you. We have been in the time that I have been here since December 2020, and we have done awesome things for the taxpayers. Todd has implemented so many new policies. My chief of staff, Todd Thielman, and there's a lot of work to do still. And so the election is the end of June. I plan on being here another 4 years because we want to fix things and continue all the great things that we're doing. Now, Worth and Lake Township opened on April 26th for appeals at the Board of Review. And we will stay open until May 25th for you to file your appeals. So that's why we're doing this seminar tonight, is because you have until May 25th. We want to make sure that all your questions are answered and you get this done properly. So that's why the analysts are on here tonight. They're going to help you answer your questions afterwards, but Todd's going to put on a PowerPoint presentation that should cover everything. But we will still be here to answer your questions. You can drop your questions in the chat box and the analysts can get to those during the PowerPoint, but Todd will also address those questions afterwards on anything that we missed. But we're going to send you a survey out as well afterwards. We're going to email it to you. Please answer that survey, send it back to us, because that helps us improve our outreach efforts. And then don't forget to sign up for the text alerts so that you're notified of future openings at the Board of Review. Again, thank you to my team, and thank you all for being here. Without further ado, Todd Thielman, take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner Wendt. As Commissioner Wendt stated, my name is Todd Thielman. I'm our Chief of Staff. I grew up in the Beverly neighborhood. Lake Township, near and dear to my heart. I still have a lot of family and friends that live in Lake Township. I spent a lot of time in Evergreen Park, so I have friends and family there as well. So this was a special outreach that we wanted to do. We couldn't find a location to do it in the district, so we decided to do this one virtual. And I really appreciate it. We had a strong response to our interest in this outreach, and it tells you how much of a flashpoint property taxes are. We're all getting really stretched with all the expenses, and property tax is just something that keeps creeping up. I was reading an article today that, you know, the average income has gone up. I think it was 126% in 30 years, but property taxes have gone up like 268%. So it's outpacing a lot of our wages, and that's a big issue. So how do we give people the ability to maybe reduce their property tax bills? That's through the first step would be to try to get your assessed value possibly reduced. And we're going to go through a process of how you can do that tonight. So I'm going to get started on the PowerPoint. I hope everyone could share it, could see it. And so what is the Board of Review? The Board of Review is a separate agency than the assessor. So you hear the Cook County assessor all the time. That's a totally different agency. The assessor determines your assessed value, what your property is worth. And that's ultimately used to determine your tax bill. Think of it as a slice of pie. The assessor is trying to figure out how much of your property is a portion of that pie, and that's how we divvy up what the taxes are going to be due. If you file an appeal at the assessor, it doesn't mean that you have to file an appeal at the Board of Review or vice versa. They're totally separate agencies. If you file an appeal at the assessor, regardless of what they say, you can always file an appeal at the Board of Review. If you don't file at the assessor, you can still file at the Board of Review. It's not contingent on anything. You do have to file an appeal at the Board of Review to give us jurisdiction, though. We just can't, we don't have the bandwidth to go out and just look at everybody's properties. So you have to file an appeal to give us the jurisdiction over your property. And residential property owners do not need to hire a lawyer to file the appeal. And one of the benefits of appealing, obviously the main benefit everyone is searching for is maybe saving them some dollars, right? But if you file at the Board of Review, you get a possible assessment and reduction. And I don't want people to confuse an assessment reduction with a lower tax bill. They're not exactly correlated like that. There is a disconnect there. I'll go over that a little bit later on. You do have an opportunity for multi-year savings. If you file an appeal at the Board of Review and you get a reduction, that new value will carry over for what's called your triennial. I'm going to talk about a triennial here in a minute to give you some context on that. If you do appeal in the first year of the triennial, that reduction is going to be granted for all 3 years. There's never a fee to file with the Board of Review. We're a public agency funded by your tax dollars already. We never charge a fee to file. So if anyone that's not your attorney is trying to charge you for an appeal, I would run away really quick from that scenario. And a misconception is that if you file an appeal with the Board of Review, that we can possibly increase your assessment. We don't increase assessments at the Board of Review. So I'll go over the triennial a little bit. So Cook County is so big that a long time ago, they decided to split the county into 3 sections. There's the northern suburbs, the southern suburbs, and the city of Chicago. And what that does is it gives the assessor the ability to do 1/3 of the county every year. I think the county consists of 1.9 million parcels. So it's too much to do in 1 year. In an ideal perfect world, it would be, the whole county would be assessed every year, but it's just impossible to do. Maybe something we could strive for in the future with technology, but right now it's still impossible. So so every 3 years they do a section. In this year, 2021, the city of Chicago is being reassessed. You may hear about that in the news. There's a big issue with technology and delayed tax bills and things like that are going on. And that the city is being reassessed because the city actually comprises the majority of the pins in the county. So it's the largest area that gets reassessed. The problem that the assessor faces is it's such a large task that they have to do what's called a mass appraisal system. And what that means is they have to take a lot of data, sales data, leasing data, and things like that. They plug it into their computer programs, and it spits out values. But that process isn't exact. So you can imagine if it doesn't know neighborhoods really well, it doesn't know what's going on. It's just taking this raw data and trying to extrapolate some kind of value. So that's where mass appraisal has issues. And that's why the Board of Review is around, because we realized that, or somebody realized that a long time ago, that there could be issues. The Board of Review gets to focus on your individual properties on a micro scale. So as you file an appeal with us, we no longer, we're not looking at it from a really high level like the assessor. We get to hone in on your block, your neighborhood, what's going on a lot smaller level. So that's why we could really, I like to think, do a better job of looking at your assessed value and determining whether it's fair or it's over assessed. So this is the schedule kind of breaking up the 3 different areas, the city of Chicago, the north suburbs, and the south suburbs. So, right now we could have people from Lake Township of the city of Chicago on this call. They're being reassessed this year. And we also may have people from Worth Township who were reassessed last year. So you can see they're on 2 different schedules. The south will be reassessed in 2023. So what are the grounds for an appeal? Todd, why would I appeal? What can I do I think I'm being over assessed. I think I'm paying too much in taxes. Those are really 2 different questions, but the majority of appeals that we hear every year are for a lack of uniformity. And it's a fancy word for, is your house valued similarly to a house that is just like yours on the block or within proximity of your place. Also, we're looking at age of the property. We're looking at the square footage of the property to determine whether those are good comparables or not. Another ground for appeal would be recent purchase. So if you purchase a property in the last 3 years, that's a really good indication of value. In fact, in most property valuation theory, an arm's length sale is the best indicator of value, bar none. And when you hear the word arm's length sale, that means I didn't buy a house from my brother, my business partner didn't buy a house from me. So there's no relationship between the buyer and seller. It was fairly marketed on the open market on, say an MLS or through a realtor. So those are the kind of things that give an arm's length sale credence. And if you purchase your property within the last 3 years and the assessor has your assessed value at a higher level than your purchase price, you have a really good case for a reduction. A factual error. These are things that don't happen that often, but you imagine, there's a lot of people involved in the property tax world. A lot of data is being entered manually. Fat finger errors happen. Is it 2,600 square feet or is it 26,000 square feet? So those are things that do happen. We will look at factual errors. We're not the depository or the holder of characteristic data. That's the assessor. But if there's in fact if there's factual errors and we get enough evidence and we agree to that, we can make changes for a single year. Eventually, the assessor would really have to make the permanent change. They'd have to do what's called a field check, where they'd come out and do a remeasure and try to find out where the error happened. Vacancy is, think of vacancy as something like an act of God, fire, flood, demo, mold remediation, where you have to vacate your property. That's a grounds for an appeal. That's a grounds for a reduced AV based on the percentage of time that you're out of your house. There's a lot of evidence that has to come in for that. We would ask for fire reports, police reports, insurance documents, building permits, occupancy permits, things of that nature. Pictures, we require pictures before and after, and they need to be dated. But don't get crazy on that. All you need to do is take a Sharpie and write the date on the picture. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. So what do you want to include in your residential appeal? Or what do you want to include to support your residential appeal? If it's based on uniformity, like I said, it's most of them. Comparable properties is what we look for. I'm going to show you a tool in a second how you can find comparables. But don't let the search for comparable properties be your stumbling block on getting an appeal in. If you can't find a comparable, or you think it's just too hard, you can still file an appeal. If we don't receive any evidence with an appeal, we're going to assume it's a uniformity argument, and we're going to run a uniformity analysis. So I don't want that to be the burden that stops you from filing an appeal. You can also go to your alderman's office, Alderman O'Shea for the 19th Ward. He will help you find, his office will help you find comparables. If you're in Worth Township, the Assessor Murphy, his office will help you find comparables as well. I did talk to Assessor Murphy last week. If you're in Worth, he'd really like to have to know that you want some comparables by the end of this week, by Friday. So if you're in Worth Township, contact the assessor. He has a staff of 3 or 4. You can just go there. It's on Pulaski. I can't remember the exact address, but he'll help you find, his office will help you find comparables, as well as Alderman O'Shea. Comparable sales is something that you would have to help us gather. We don't always have timely comparable sales data. So if you know there's houses selling on your block or in your neighborhood, and they're selling for less than your assessed value, and they're houses that are like yours, we would want to know that, so you can give us that data. Interestingly, right now the real estate market is pretty hot, as I'm sure everybody realizes. So I don't know if comparable sales will actually be a helpful approach to an appeal this year. Maybe if the market corrects in a year or two, that may be something to look at. But right now, I don't think we're going to see a lot of comparable sales or market approach appeals. Again, factual errors, things that we would want to see is architectural drawings, but we would need those basically signed by the architects, preferably within the last 3 years. Plats of survey within the last 3 years would be something that we would want to see as well. Always provide pictures if you can. Closing, if you have closing documents that shows the square footages and things of that nature, they would be helpful as well for correcting a factual error. Again, we can only give relief for 1 year, with the expectation that the assessor is going to eventually fix whatever that error is for future appeals. And then vacancy, as I said, the permits and the police and fire reports and things like that, we'd want to see those. So if you want to look for comparables, you're very adventurous and you want to go look for comparables, there's a great tool that the assessor's office has. And so why should we recreate the wheel? We're going to use their resources here. So if you go to cookcountyassessor.com and you go to the appeal tab at the top, you'll find the drop-down menu, find comparable properties. And that's going to bring you to what's called Cook County Viewer. And it's a great tool that was developed by Cook County. It's not by any particular agency, but it'll help you find comparables. You can you enter your PIN or your address, and then you ask it to find comparables, and it'll help you find comparables. So it's a pretty handy tool, kind of like a Google Earth. It looks like Google Earth, and it has all the properties around, all the pins of your neighbors around you. If you want to really get investigative and go look and see what everyone else is paying for their taxes. The one good thing about Cook County is our property tax system is fairly transparent. So you can look up the tax bills on the treasurer's website of everybody that you know that has a pin. You can go to the recorder of deeds and look up, you know, past sales history of any particular property. You can look up at the assessed value that any of your neighbors have currently. So it's a very transparent system. So we're going to go in how do you actually file the appeal? You can file the appeal with an old paper form, and the assessors have them. Assessor Murphy has them in his office in Worth. Alderman O'Shea has them in his office. But we really want to push people to use technology. And the Board of Review has a digital appeal platform. I'm going to run through how you can do that online. It takes less than 10 minutes to file an appeal. And the easiest way is to actually create an account. So we call it register here, but think of it as the same thing as just creating an account. You can do that. You can create that account at any time. You don't have to wait for your township to open. You only have to do it once, but you're gonna have to remember your username and password. We don't have a fancy password reset button like a lot of good websites do, so you have to remember your password. If you forget, you're gonna have to call the Board of Review to have a password reset done for you. It's a little clunky. You're ultimately gonna get a voicemail, and someone's gonna call you back within 48 hours. But the number to call our switchboard at any time is right there on the screen, 312-603-5542. It's our general switchboard number. Like I said, it's going to go to a voicemail, leave a message, and somebody will return your call. So when you go to our website, cookcountyboardofreview.com, this is the first splash page that you get on the website. If somebody's at home and they want to jump on their website right now, this is the page that this is what the page looks like when you first go there. The very top right-hand corner is that orange button, Submit Appeal. And that's really where you want to go first. The login button will bring you basically to the same place, but Submit Appeal is where you want to go. And it's going to bring you to this page. And this is where you can either log in if you already have a username and password, or you can register with the new username and password that you create. You can also submit an appeal as a guest. But there's no advantage to it. Submit an appeal as a guest it looks like you get to go in as a stealth. They have that little icon there of like a private eye, like you can go in and no one's gonna know who you are, but you still have to put all your information in, your email address, your name, your address, your phone number. So there's nothing different than doing that from just registering with an account. And registering an account has more benefits. So really, I would want you to register if you can. Next screen is going to be where you would actually, if you had a username and password, you put it in right there, hit login. By the way, that change password button doesn't work. If you're a new user, you'd be on the right side and you hit register here, and it's going to ask you to create a username and password, and then you're going to enter your name, your email, the address of your property, and then you're going to confirm it. And there's going to be a button that asks if you're an attorney. So if you're not an attorney, I would hit no. Even if you are an attorney, I would probably hit no anyways. And then again, there's that phone number for password recovery if you need it, 312-603-5542. This is being recorded and will be on Commissioner Wentz YouTube channel, and I think it's going to be disseminated by the 19th Ward, maybe on their website as well. So you'll have a chance to look at this again. After you hit register on that screen, this will come to the next screen here. And this is going to be where you can look. If you had registered in the past, you can see the button that says My Appeals. That's going to show your current appeal, and also any historical appeals that you had will be in there as well. That's one of the benefits of registering, is you get the historical, the history of your appeals. If you wanted to submit a new appeal now, you'd hit the button Submit Appeal. What the rest of the screen shows is what we call pre-file townships, open townships. Now, when this screenshot was taken, all those townships were in pre-file. 16 townships were in pre-file, and Lake was one of them. I'll go over what pre-file is in a second. And then at that time, open townships were just Maine and Payless. So right now, this screen looks a lot different. We no longer have any pre-file townships. Every township is either open or it's already been closed. So this screen does look a little different right now. So what pre-file is every year the Board of Review traditionally opens the first week of July. Now, we don't have townships open yet, but the Board of Review is open to accept pre-file appeals. And the advantage of that is if you had created an account, you can really file your appeal at any time after the first week of July. You did not have to wait for April 26th to file an appeal. You could have filed July 6th, and then it's kind of like set it and forget it. Your appeal will wait in a queue, and then when the township does open, we'll accept all those appeals that were waiting in a queue, and then they'll hit our systems, and our analysts will be able to work them. So that's what pre-file is, and it's a really a neat thing, because that 30-day window sometimes sneaks up on people. They find themselves, they're out of town, they get sick, something's going on. You can file your appeal anytime after July 6th in a traditional year. This year, there's some delays. We don't know if it's going to open the first week of July or the first week of August. We haven't decided yet, but you can look, pay attention to the website. You can see at the very top there, it said the pre-file period in 2021 began July 2nd. So that's when it actually began last year, July 2nd, not July 6th, sorry. But it's usually sometime in that first week of July. It's obviously going to fluctuate depending on where the week falls with weekends and things like that. So you can watch that in the future, and you can file early. You don't have to worry about your 30-day window. So after you go to the screen, you hit Submit Appeal. This is the next screen you're going to get. It's going to ask you what type of appeal would you like to file. And if you use that drop-down menu, there's only one type of an appeal. It's property is overassessed. I don't know why we have a drop-down window, but property is overassessed is the only option you have there. You would put in your PIN. Again, you're going to hit no, that you're not registering as an attorney. And then you're going to hit the button that says you're not a robot. You're going to hit next. It's going to bring you to this screen. This screen adds a little confusion for some people. What an associated PIN is, and we see this a lot in the city, is if a parcel or a house is possibly on two pins. This happened when there was subdivision of pins in the past, and then a property or an improvement, a house was built right on the middle, and it straddles a pin lot line. So you'll see people that have multiple pins, up to 4 or 5 I've seen sometimes. You would know it because you would receive a separate tax bill for each pin as well. But this is what an associated pin is in our minds. So if you do have multiple pins, you want to put them on there. You want to include them in your appeal. Most likely, I want to say 100%, but most likely our analysts would figure out that there was more pins involved, and then it creates kind of an issue. We have to get it corrected and things like that. But if you can help us identify them at the beginning, that will be helpful. So if you have multiple pins, that's where you'd put it. You would not want to put any comparables on there. Obviously, it says do not list comparables. If you don't have any associated pins, drop-down menu is no is an answer, and you hit submit. Come to the next screen. We're going to again ask for your name. We're going to again ask for your address. Appellant type is going to be owner for most people. The drop-down menu will be owner as one of the options. The thing on this screen that's really important is if you want a hearing, you click yes. Everybody is able to request a hearing. Now, we hope you only request hearings for unique situations or things that you think need to be told verbally that something's going on with your property. We don't have the ability to have hearings for everybody. I wish we had that ability, but we just don't have the amount of manpower to do that. So please request hearings only in extreme situations. If you request a hearing and then you change your mind, you can always withdraw. If you answered no to that question and you decided you did want a hearing, you can always call the switchboard and we can add a hearing to your appeal up until the day that we close your township, really. And then there's a question, when did you purchase your property? Because if you had purchased it in the last 3 years, we want to know if you purchased it in the last 3 years and how much you paid for it, is one of the requirements to file an appeal. You'd hit next. You're going to get this screen, and this is basically the confirmation screen. This is the last screen before you're done. There's going to be a little blue box. It's right under the red line. You can barely see it. You would click that blue box just to confirm that all the information is correct. And then you're going to put your initials in that longer blue box, and you're going to hit submit. And that is that appeal is done. You filed your appeal, and it's, you know, it took me 15 minutes to explain it. You could have filled those boxes out probably 6-7 minutes, really. We want to throw this screen in here. This is what a second installment tax bill looks like. It's the yellow one. The first one's always going to be blue. The second one is yellow, and this one's important because it has information on it that you don't see on the first installment. First of all, I'll start at the top, and these do have things that you'll see on your blue ones. It has your property tax in your PIN, has your township, has your property classification. But what's really important on this one that you should be aware of is the exemptions. So even though the Board of Review doesn't have anything to do really with exemptions, we don't have jurisdictions of applying exemptions, denying exemptions, anything like that. It's definitely a major part of the property tax process. So I just want everyone to realize this is where you find them on your second installment property tax bill. You also find who your taxing bodies are and where your money's being spent. And that's important because as our tax bills rise, you know, you got to figure out where all that money's going. And generally, you're going to find that probably 50% to 60% of your tax bills going to your school district, your community colleges, your high schools, your grammar schools, things like that. If you think you're paying too much in taxes, that's where you want to get involved in those local units of government to find out why they're spending so much of your money. So I always like to know where my money's going, and your second installment tax bill will have where they're going. It'll have the prior year, how much you paid in the prior year, how much you paid this year. Really important to pay attention to that. Your first installment that we just all paid in March is just 55% of your prior year. There's no magic math involved in that. So that's the blue one you get is 55%. Your second tax bill is where you would see any reductions that in your assessed value that come from the Board of Review or the assessor for that matter. This will be reflected on your second installment tax bill. If you do want to do a good old-fashioned paper form, you can go to our Board of Review website, boardofreview.com. You would go to forms. There'll be a drop-down menu there, and it says select complaint form. You can print it out, you can fill it out, you can mail it to the Board of Review. It's the same thing. We're gonna treat it the same way. It looks like this. Fill in the obvious information. Really important that you do sign it though. And then if you're an attorney, don't go, if you're not an attorney, don't go underneath the red line. It's for attorneys only. And on the right margin is again that associated PIN list. You don't want to put comparables there. It's very common. We get a list of comparables there, but that's not really where we want to see them. If you want to mail in your complaint form, just put your comparables on a piece of paper and mail it in with it. I know there's a lot of condos in Lake and Worth Township, so we have one of our condo experts here, Lucas Schumann. I'll let him go through this slide real quick, and Lucas, just let me know when you want me to advance it, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Todd. So like Todd mentioned, I handle the condo class, which includes both residential condos, 299s, as well as townhomes, 295s. And both of those property classes are analyzed a little bit differently than the regular residential uniformity analyses that you usually see. Most important thing to keep in mind, if you do have, especially a condo, is that the main thing we're looking at is recent sales. And the general process that we're using is any recent sales within the subject building or complex. Any recent sales are going to contribute to our valuation of the building as a whole. And then once we have a value for the entire building based on the recent sales, we use the condominium declaration POI percentages for each unit in order to determine the assessed value. So we have an example of this on the next couple slides. So Todd, if you want to go forward. So in addition to showing kind of just in general how we analyze condos, this is also a good little example of a phenomenon that happens a lot in condos, and that's that your assessed value, or the assessed value and the market value tied to that assessed value, ends up being a little bit different than what your property may have recently sold for, or what you know it to be worth on the open market. And the reason that occurs is because of the POI, but we'll go through that example here real quick. So you can see in the table, this is a 5-unit building. And in this case, we have recent sales on 3 of the units, unit 1, 2, and 5. And you can see there our sale prices, $315,285 and $97,500, and then their corresponding POI percentages for each of those units. Todd, you can go forward again. And this just kind of runs through the math of how we use those sales to come up with a value for the building. So see the sum of $315,000, $285,000 and $97,500, then divided by the sum of the corresponding percentage of interest for those units. And that gives you a total of $697,500 divided by 65% of the building, which is represented by those sold units. And that gives you a value for the building of $1.07 million. And then if you look at the second table on the right without any highlighting, that kind of shows what the breakdown or what the value would be according to POIs and the calculated building value that we've come up with there. So if you look at those and compare them to the sale values that we use to come up with the building value on the left, you can see like for unit 1, even though there was a sale of 315 that we used in the analysis, when you actually end up getting the assessed value based on the POI, you end up with a value that's slightly higher than the sale value. In the case of unit 2, you end up with something that's a little bit lower, and for unit 5, it ends up a little bit higher. So that's not an uncommon thing to see with condos, especially the more units that you have in your building or complex, to have an assessed value that doesn't necessarily tie 100% to what your unit may have sold for in the past. And that's because of the effect of POI. So if you happen to live in a building where you truly believe that you're paying way too much based on the size of your unit, and you've consistently been no changed by the board of review or the assessor, there's a large chance when you're in a condo that it might be an issue with the POI. And unfortunately, the only way to change POI is to get a unanimous decision from your ownership, whatever kind of a homeowners association you might have in your building. It's usually a majority vote by the homeowners association to change the condo declaration to reallocate POI percentage. So that's really your only recourse when that's an issue, but that's kind of a quick example of how we would look at a simple condo. And I'll be here to answer any questions afterward if anybody has them. Just a quick slide on townhomes then. Townhomes are analyzed with kind of a hybrid model in between, I guess, in a sense, regular residence and a condo, meaning that we're looking at both sales and a uniformity argument and kind of weighing them against each other to come up with a decision in each case. I think, Todd, that's the only slide I have there. Can you check?
Yep, you got it.
So I'll be here to answer any questions specifically on townhomes or condos if anybody has them.
Thanks, Lucas. Gave my my voice a rest there. Appreciate it. So what are the guidelines to appeal at the board of review? Individuals can represent themselves before the board of review. We don't want to discourage anyone from filing an appeal. There's as it comes to property tax time, you get barraged with postcards and letters from all these property tax appeal companies. If they're attorneys, you can use them. That's fine. They will charge a percentage, but there's a small subset of them that we call consultants. The Board of Review does not allow consultants to file appeals for people. So make sure you either file them yourself or you use a licensed attorney. Otherwise, you risk getting your appeal basically administratively no change for breaking one of our rules. So stay away from the consultants. And really you should file yourself. It's quite easy. I think the data is pretty convincing that when homeowners file themselves, they have a slightly better statistical chance of getting a reduction than when attorneys file appeals. And that's due to the fact that we hold the attorneys to a higher standard. They have to really be accurate in the evidence they submit. They can't make any errors because we realize they're being paid for their work, and we want them to do to follow all the rules. Where if a homeowner makes a mistake, we'll pick up the phone and ask them, simple questions. Hey, you gave this, it doesn't look right. Is there, we need this maybe to look at your appeal further. So we give a little more latitude to homeowners when it comes to any errors that were possibly made on the appeal. Because we are date driven and deadline driven, the opening and closing of the townships is really important. We do have pre-file available, so the front end of the appeal has a lot of time if you think about it, but we still have a drop dead date. So this year it's May 25th for Lake and Worth townships. After May 25th, we cannot take any more appeals. So got to make sure that you file before that closing date. If you file on paper, we do need an official complaint form. We do need that complaint form signed. If you did send an email, if you sent a complaint form in and it's unsigned, that's one of those things we'll probably reach out and ask you if you could send another one in signed, provided we have enough time and we haven't closed yet. Again, you can request a hearing anytime you want. You can withdraw a hearing anytime you want up until we close the town, up until we finalize your towns. We do ask that you really reserve those hearings for unique situations. Please, it helps us get through a lot faster. So real quick, I want to touch on how a decision is reached. People don't really understand how we work, I guess. So as I mentioned, the township is split up in three groups, but also the Board of Review is split up. We split the county up in 3 districts. So Commissioner Wynn is District 1. There's a commissioner for District 2, and there's a commissioner for District 3. We all have a staff that's autonomous to that commissioner. And when appeals come in, they're randomized between the 3 districts. So we don't hear just District 1 appeals, and same for the other districts. They don't just hear appeals at their districts. Ultimately, they all start in one of the districts, and we all hear or we all see the appeals, and we need to make a majority decision of any change. So, for example, if 3,000 appeals come in, all districts are going to get 1,000 of them randomized, and then we all have what we call first cut, and that first cut analyst does a lot of the heavy lifting. They go generate the evidence, they examine the evidence that's presented, and they're going to make a decision, and they're going to finalize that. And as soon as they hit final, it's going to go in a rotation to one of the other districts. And that analyst is going to look at it. They're going to look at the evidence that was presented by the homeowner. They're going to look at the evidence that was presented by the analyst. They're going to figure out, where they kind of feel it goes. Sometimes they agree with the analyst, sometimes they don't. They're going to leave their decision on there, and they're going to hit finalize, and it's going to go to a third analyst at the last district, whatever district is going to be last in that point. And that third analyst is going to make a decision as well. So we look at every appeal 3 times. Last year we did 223,000 appeals, and we looked at each one 3 times at over 660,000 appeals that we processed last year. That's a huge number. We're the biggest tax appeal body for a board of review in the nation. But Cook County is the largest in the nation. So we hear the most appeals than anyone. Just a few more slides here. We'll get to the Q&A. It's 7:23, running a little slow. Sorry. Most common errors. These are common sense things. Bad information, fat fingers when you're typing stuff. Putting numbers in wrong and in the wrong places. So take your time when you're going and filling the paper out, or take your time when you're filling the information out on the website. Quick slide on exemptions. Even though we don't have jurisdiction over exemptions, it's a big issue for a lot of people. We had a person in an outreach a couple days ago or last week that had that was collecting Social Security for disability for 20 years, never knew that there was an exemption for a disability. So we got her set up with Rich Township's assessor, and I don't know if she qualifies exactly. It's not my expertise, but it sounded to me like she would have, and she can go back and request what's called a certificate of error. She can only go back 3 years, but it could be a good amount of money for that person. Most common one is a homeowner exemption, and then you get the senior exemption, senior freeze. I think they should make an allowance for inflation on that. It's been $65,000 for quite a few years now. I think that needs to be raised up to at least $75,000, but it's something that you can come in and out of. I had a woman in an outreach on last Thursday who took a draw out of her retirement account, I believe it was an IRA, to get some home improvement work done, not realizing that it was income that was counted as income. So she went over the $65,000 and lost her senior freeze. So you got to be careful of things like that. Again, this is something that your local assessor can help you with, Sean Murphy in Worth, or the Alderman's office in the 19th. So I'll leave you with this. 30-day filing period. If you didn't pre-file, you got to be cognizant of that. Once you appeal, it's going to take us between 8 and 16 weeks. We're probably closer to the 16 weeks right now. If you registered, you're going to get an email notification that we made a decision. The email will not show your decision. You actually need to go into your account to look at your decision. Any reductions are going to be reflected on your second installment tax bill, and we will never increase your assessment. It's either going to remain the same or decrease. So don't let that fear of being increased be your reason to not file an appeal. This is our contact information. The first one there on the left, the info@BORD1, that's the email account that we monitor. So if you have any question, you can always send an email to that account. There's the Facebook page, Commissioner Wentz YouTube channel. It's going to have this, and our previous recordings are going to be on there as well. There's the front desk number, 603-5542. Twitter. I don't even know what the last one is there, but I know we're working on TikTok and Insta. They should be up here pretty soon, maybe on our newer slides coming up. And then we do have a new text program, and Commissioner touched on this for a second. If you text BOR to 74121, we'll keep you apprised of openings and closings in the future. Not that, this year it's probably not a big deal. We already know it's going to close in about a week, but in the future, this will keep you apprised of what's going on. Any future outreaches that we do will be sent out based on who participates in this. So anything else? I think it's 8 o'clock. I think we're going to call it a night. I appreciate everyone coming out. I don't know if Commissioner Wentz is still on. I think I'm still sharing my screen with our contact information. There's our email address. If you want to email us any specific questions that maybe you didn't want to share tonight, go ahead and you can email our staff, and we'll answer your question there. I do see Commissioner. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to say thank you again, Todd, and the analysts that are on tonight answering questions. I have to say I have the best staff ever. They are so informed, and they really they really take their job serious. So thank you guys for all your hard work and help. And thank you to all the participants for coming tonight and learning how to appeal your property taxes. There were some great questions that I heard. I'm just really glad to see that people are taking an interest in, this. The Board of Review is an entity that I know many people have no clue what it is. And so, you're one step ahead. So I'm glad to see that more people are getting involved in appealing their taxes, because these are hard times. And so you got to get that as under control as you can. So doing this is your best bet. So thank you again. Goodbye to everybody out there on Facebook world and on Zoom, and hope to see you all around the neighborhood sometime soon. Take care.
Good night, Commissioner. Thank you. This will be, as I stated, it'll be on our YouTube channel if you want to watch a recording or some earlier recordings of these outreaches that we do. I think we have one left tomorrow for the year, and then we are finished. And thank you for everybody, and good luck with your appeals. Reach out to us if you have any questions. If you need help filing appeals, you can go to your alderman's office. You can go to your township assessor's office. You can reach out to Commissioner Went's staff, and we'll help you as well. So good luck, and God bless everybody, and thank you. Let's call it a night. Thank you.